So hi, hello and welcome again. I'm Oliver, and this here is, well, not such a nice object. Well, it's a World War II, and now I have to get it right. World War II half-inch armor-piercing tracer bullet. I hope I got that right. Yes, I got it from my grandfather, who found it during the Second World War, and we're going to have a closer look at this. And it's what I consider at least interesting history and the way it was found. And the second thing that I want to show you is this is whatever is left over of this World War II anti-tank shell, and you can see it already exploded, and that's why it fragmented, and it's pretty heavy. And we're gonna have a closer look at those two here. Well, first of all, I'm not so much into collecting old military equipment, but because this is actually an object that traveled in the family from my grandfather over to my uncle over to me, I said as well, let's have a close look at this. Okay, and because I knew nothing about military equipment, I had to do a little bit of research on this, and let's first talk a little bit about the history and how it was found. My grandfather told me that he found this bullet sticking inside the rail of a railroad. So if my fingers are the railroad rail, metal, steel, right, and the bullet was in it like this, right, and then he told me that he took a rock and he knocked against it to loosen it, and then he pulled it out and he took it along as a wartime souvenir. Yeah. Okay, and that's basically how it ended up with me now, maybe around 80 years later, right? So what I've done therefore is I wanted to find out a little bit more about what type of bullet is it. I know nothing about military stuff, as I already told you, and I said, well, maybe I can do some online research. And what I've done is I kind of measured out the dimensions and did a little bit of research, and I discovered that this one is a little bit over around. Across around what does it say here, 12 to 13 millimeters across, approximately half of an inch, and the length is about 55 millimeters. Yeah, it probably was a little bit longer because this outside covering here, I think it's called the jacket of the bullet, was probably also extended forward a little bit. Yeah, so that's basically what I typed in and the online research, and this is how what I discovered is that this type of bullet was apparently used quite widely by the Allies. So it seems to be an Allied bullet. And it's armor piercing. This means that it's the core is made of hardened steel. Yeah, and even though it hit the railroad, the rail of the railroad, you see it's not deformed at all. And the outside part here seems to be some kind of a copper alloy, and that's of course very soft, and therefore it was kind of deformed. So you can actually see the angle and how it was in here. I think it must probably have been shot from an airplane. The reason is of course because it came from the top, and because unfortunately I also know that the brother of my grandmother in 1943. He also fell during the Second World War because he was his troop transport in the train was also attacked by airplanes. Yeah, so he was unfortunately also machine gunned. Yeah, basically that's what my grandmother told me. So this is basically something that seemed to have been quite common at that time, that the train system was basically attacked by aircraft. I wanted to know a little bit more about these weird diagonal things in here, and what my research showed me that these are so-called riflings, I think they're called. These are kind of like scratches in the outer part here to give the bullet a spin, so that it flies more stably. And this ring over here is the place where the cartridge or the case, I don't know what it's called, the rest of the bullet or of the thing with the gunpowder is connected. Yeah? Apparently this here. And I wanted to know also a little bit more about this strange hole in here. And this is because apparently this is so-called a tracer bullet, and there was some kind of also some kind of a glowing powder in here, so that it made a light streak, so that the person who shot it could actually see how the bullet was flying, because it was kind of burning in here, and then you could see the light. Yeah. So in that sense, during doing the research on this, I learned quite a bit about this military material over here. So again, this is apparently an armor-piercing bullet from a machine gun. Apparently, is a Browning M2 machine gun or something. This was was apparently quite popular at that time. If there's any one of you who knows a little bit more about this stuff, then please, there's a comment section below, okay? So let's have a look now at the other one here, which is apparently a little bit more rare than this one, because these bullets were pretty common. And that is also, after a little bit of research, I found out that this is actually the what's left over of a so-called a shell, an explosive shell against tanks. Here too, I started to measure out the dimensions to do a little bit of to find out a little bit more, and it's 47 millimeters, and over here it's 40 millimeters. Yeah, so apparently the metric system was used. And apparently this is not such a common size. And this was probably therefore manufactured in either in Austria or in the Czech Republic. And because that's was basically by the company Böhler or Skoda apparently, and they also used to make those weapons, and they also used it for export. So it was not only used in Central Europe but also in other countries apparently. Again, please, you do the research on this. It's fairly heavy. You can also see those rifling marks. There are 24 of them. You can see over here there are some letters engraved. It looks like an L or an E. This could have been an N and a Z, right? That's, I don't know what it could be. Maybe a manufacturing place or some kind of a product code or batch code, or I don't know. That is not so the thing. I want to show you something else that I found, which I was really actually surprised. Positively surprised, because when you turn it around, look at this. Are we not lucky? There is a year engraved, 1936. So this was manufactured before the start of the Second World War. And we're pretty lucky that the numbering is still present and was also not broken away. And just by looking at the way that the numbers are written, look at the number 3 over here, right? Do you see that there's this horizontal line over here like this? What I know is that especially in German-speaking countries, it was customary, or still is customary, to write the number 3 like this with a horizontal line on the top. So this could be yet another indicator that this probably originated from maybe Austria, or where German is spoken, right? So I did want to weigh this, how heavy it is. Right, so it's because it was felt quite heavy, and when you put it on here, you see it's what 556 grams. Not imaginable how heavy the whole thing must have been, the whole shell must have been. And this bullet over here is somewhat over 43 grams, 42 grams. So quite a bit lighter, but still, if you just hold it like this, it's quite surprisingly heavy. On the inside here, and that's another thing that I realized is, look, the wall over here is significantly thicker than here on the side. So I think it was meant to fracture on the front part, and so that the back part is intact. Again, I did research, and I also heard that this is of course done deliberately, and that's why there are many of these. The back parts of those shells found, and practically no front parts, because the front part all scattered and fragmented. That's the correct term. Holding this in my hand, and that's maybe the last comment, it does require a little bit of respect. Why? Because of this thing here. I mean, we will never know, but because of this thing here, probably people died. Okay, so this is always something that we have to keep in mind when looking at these things. They might be interestingly historically and from an engineering perspective and so on, but these are items of war, and I think we all agree war is bad, right? I'm not a collector of these items, but I think it's kind of a little bit of a warning sign, and also being passed on from a family, from generation to generation. It's also a little bit of a warning sign that let's try to avoid war. Let's all work together. And last thing, and that's maybe the ironic part. It doesn't have to be a symbol of war. My grandfather used it as a pencil holder, and I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I wish you all the best, and hope to see you again in the next video. Bye bye.